Mr. Clerk.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. We do have a letter from the Port Moody Rifle Association dated May 6, 1913. Gentlemen, I write to you on behalf of the Port Moody Rifle Association. I have the honor of serving as secretary, having been appointed as such by the esteemed members. As you are aware, we are establishing our shooting range in the new subdivision of Coronation Park. We have plans to expand our membership based on the size and quality of our shooting space and need a wise decision from council to ensure success. The Port Moody Rifle Association respectfully requests consideration from the City Council to allow our members to be shooting in a southerly manner, which would have effect of shooting over John Street, East, and possibly Dewdney Trunk Road. Respectfully, J.L. Churchard, Secretary, Port Moody Rifle Association. Your Worship.
Your Worship. Alderman McLean.
Thank you, Your Worship. As a resident of East Port Moody, I am not really happy with guns going off in my newly neighborhood. I have no idea what times they are. It doesn't tell me it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I would not want to be woken up by a rifle shot in East Port. It's fine in West Port Moody, but not in East Port Moody. So I don't know how I'm going to judge this, Your Worship. I'll wait to hear everyone else speak. Thank you.
Alderman Clark.
Thank you, Your Worship. I totally support this. I think it's good that our citizens are having the opportunity to hone their skills with their rifles. And actually, when you think about it, why should we care anyway? Because most of the people going along that road are going to Port Coquitlam.
Thank you, Alderman Clark. Alderman Murray.
Well, I sense a little bit of rivalry with the eastern part of Port Moody there. And, you know, you living in your extravagant ways with your monster houses. And you know this gentleman has a 900 square foot house? Anyway, I have no problem with this whatsoever. I in fact, shoot things all over the city. I've shot 2 bears on John Street East there, and I shot a deer in front of the bank. So I don't see any trouble with letting people shoot wherever they want to shoot. What's the trouble with that? There's no trouble with that. I'm supporting this 100%.
Alderman White.
As a founding member of the Rifle Association, I have to say that we have scoped the land of the shooting range, and to be faced and shooting in a southeastern manner over John Street East is much more preferable at dusk than shooting in a southwestern and be blinded by the sunlight, which could have serious ramifications.
Your Worship. Alderman Britton.
And not wanting to close debate, but with the importance of this meeting and the assembled crowd, we might want to have the vote soon in order not to give the impression that we are all half shot already.
That's where we had the meeting, pre-meeting.
I wonder if
Alderman White.
I wonder if there have been any discussions with the police chief.
The police chief has not had this item discussed to the best of our knowledge. This is simply a letter being received from the Rifle Association at this time. Is there further direction from council on this matter?
I will move, Your Worship, that the communication from the Rifle Association be referred to the police commissioners.
Very well.
And I would second that motion.
Seconder.
Here, here.
And, if I can speak on the motion, the commissioners happen to live in East Port Moody, Your Worship, so I will be supporting this now.
Thank you, Alderman McLean. And just before we call the vote, I will mention that I have also received a further letter from the newly elected mayor of Coquitlam, Mayor Sikora, stating that he too hopes that we would consider restricting the rifle near the borders of his town. So,
Yes, Your Worship, I've actually seen the mayor driving his wagon on Dudney Trunk Road. And we may want to make sure that he remains mayor for a long period.
With that considered, then the motion is that the communication be referred to the police commissioners?
Question.
Call a question. All those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Seeing none, this is the smoothest council meeting ever. Mr. Clerk, could we get some more business we can take care of while everybody's in a unanimous supporting mood?
Yes, Your Worship, this should be good. The next item is bylaw regarding a road tax, which was presented on May 6, 1913. And I believe you have a copy of it in front of you.
We do. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So council does have the bylaw in front of them saying then, and what the bylaw suggests is that the city of Port Moody, by way of a road tax, would raise a levy upon every male person over the age of 21 years residing within the municipality in the amount of $2 per year. And this would further be exempted on any male over the age of 60 years of age and would come into effect the 15th day of June, 1913. And further details as read. Alderman McNeese.
Yes, Your Worship. I noted in this bylaw that there are several sections that refer to male persons. It says the tax of $2 per year shall be levied upon every male person over the age of 21 years. And as you know, the movement to give women the right to vote is gaining momentum in Canada. In New Zealand, which is also part of our British Commonwealth, women have had the right to vote for 20 years now. And women in Sweden have had the right to vote for centuries. Women in Portland, just 2 days' travel south of us, were given the right to vote last year, and I would respectfully say to my colleagues here on council that it is inevitable that Port Moody women will one day have the right to vote. And I know that it sounds like an insane thing, especially coming from me, but I think that we should give consideration to an amendment that a tax of $1 be levied upon every person over the age of 21 years versus making the distinction between men and women.
Here, here.
Alderman Otley is strangely passionate about this issue as well. Alderman McLean.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. Alderman McNeese made up a very valid point. What's next for the women if this is up? Are they going to run for council? Are they going to run for offices? We may even have a female premier of this province, Your Worship. Who knows this fact? So if you give the women this grant or this, what Alderman McNeese has mentioned, I'm so upset, Your Worship, I even don't know about this.
It's the Eastern Ward.
Again, what is next for women if we allow this? I don't know if I'll be supporting that on that reason, Your Worship. And I'm not biased. That's not my problem. I'm from East Port Moody. We don't have biased people in East Port Moody.
Reluctant to take this issue home to your wife.
Yes, that's it. And she happens to be sitting right there.
Alderman Clark.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Given in light of Alderman McNeese's comment earlier that a woman should be allowed to be the city clerk, perhaps this is a valid argument. One thing I would like to argue, though, is that this $2 per annum per every employed male, and our total budget right now is $36,000 a year, Your Worship. $2 per annum could be pretty onerous on every male in the city. I've noted also that the penalty for not paying this and not producing a receipt when you are called upon by the chief of police or the city clerk, the penalty is a $5 fine and 10 days in jail at hard labor. Is this fair, Your Worship?
It does seem a little lenient here.
And also, Your Worship, if I might say, by introducing this, are we not starting to charge people more than what they're paying in the taxes that they pay? And is this not something that may continue on in the future in the form of some type of a fee that users pay?
A fee for using the roads, preposterous. Alderman White.
I notice the chief of police is going to be the one that is responsible for ensuring that these taxes are paid, but I will speak to the amendment that has been put forth. The repercussions of not paying the tax, as noted by Alderman Clark, is jail time of 10 days or hard labor. What is it of the women if they do not pay? Are we going to put them in the lockup? I don't believe that there's facilities for female lockup, and the thought of putting women to hard work building the roads is something that I have some concern about.
I guess it depends if they're East Port Moody women or West Port Moody women. Not entirely sure. Alderman McNeese, would you like to respond to Alderman White's questions?
Well, heaven forbid that one day alderpersons of the female persuasion will be pressured to dress in drag to commemorate 100 years of Port Moody Council. Heaven forbid. But you're right, Alderman White, at this present moment, we do not have jail facilities for the genteel sex.
Well, that's one thing our chief of police will have to add to his list of duties, which are getting longer with every resolution we pass.
And are we going to pay our chief of police more?
Only if he's a she.
There are indeed troubling issues, and it concerns me that we would levy a tax on the females without allowing them the other privileges that have yet to be granted. Alderman Murray.
Well, I don't know about this whole women thing, but all I know is that we got stationery to pay for. And a road tax is a fine way to pay for that stationery, so I would be supporting whoever wants to pay, whether it's a man or a woman or a dog or a horse, I don't care. As long as we can buy that stationery.
Did they have acting mayors in 1913? Oh, boy. So we do have Alderman McNeese and Audley have moved and seconded the amendment. And I thank council for their distinctly respectful debate on that issue. So I shall call the question then on the amendment to also levy male and female and to change the amount to $1. I'll call that question to council. All those in favor?
Aye.
And all those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
And I can't count. I'll ask again, to call the question. Mr. Clerk, to count the votes here of all those in favor of the amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
And all those opposed?
Nay.
It fails.
And
What do you mean, the mayor hasn't voted?
The mayor can't vote.
I don't vote. The clerk says that the amendment has failed on vote. So on the original bylaw then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And it carries sort of unanimously. Thank you. The next item, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you very much. The next item is a bylaw for a dog tax that was debated on May 6, 1913. And you have that bylaw in front of you.
The bylaw to levy a tax upon dogs calls for an annual fee of $2 for each dog, $3, can't say it. And any person who keeps 5 dogs shall be had to own a kennel and pay an annual tax of $10. And the further details are there in front of you as read. Alderman McNeese.
Your worship, I would point out that the bylaw does not differentiate between male and female.
Or east or west.
This bylaw does not discriminate on the basis of gender of the owner, nor the gender of the dog. So in this bylaw, we're actually making concessions that might satisfy women. Perhaps, at least until, who knows, a referendum sometime in BC in the next few years that would get women the right to vote. But again, this bylaw doesn't discriminate, unlike the road tax bylaw.
Alderman Notley.
Alderman McNeish, did you read this bylaw? It
Yes,
does
sir.
indeed distinguish between male and female. In fact, the female bitch is charged $3 and the male $2. I would like to understand that better.
Me too, Alderman. You know, it's amazing that we are making the distinction in this bylaw. However, we are not discriminating between the gender of the owner, as I pointed out.
Perhaps the city clerk would have some clarity as to the different charge between the aforementioned.
Why is that?
There was a concern about overpopulation. So to higher tax a female dog might reduce the numbers of female dogs, which might not have an overpopulation issue in the future.
This is going
And how might we reduce the number of female dogs?
This is going nowhere good, Your Worship.
Mayor,
There's
my
a,
name is Jeremiah Moss. I've been living in this city for over 20 years. I got a dog by the name of Rascal. Most of the people in this town know Rascal. He kind of hangs out here and hangs out there. He doesn't do much. I got a problem. I got a problem with this because I don't know how the hell this dog's gonna pay the tax.
you are out of order, Mr. Moss. And I believe Alderman McKay is a fine reference to what can happen for somebody who lays around and does very little all day. And he does manage to pay his taxes. Alderman White.
I'm not going to get in this debate about male dogs or female dogs, but I do believe that we have a problem with curs and mongrels being left in Port Moody by the transient workers. My concern is over the responsibility of who's going to make sure all these dogs' taxes are paid. Once again, it's the chief of police, another duty added to his list. And the bylaw so defines that he is responsible for impounding the dogs, for feeding and watering the dogs, and for also putting them down when need be. I can see that as serious duties. But my concern is if you read further in the bylaw, he does receive a commission on every tax paid, and he receives a fee for every dog he puts down. Obviously, there is a mechanism here for the chief of police to earn much higher salaries than we agreed to earlier in the meeting.
Mark my words.
Your points are taken, Alderman White. Alderman McLean.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you again. I want some clarification on this. Are they West Side dogs or East Side dogs we're talking about? Before I can make my decision, there may be a few dogs on the East Side. They're well-groomed, well taken care of, Your Worship. They shouldn't have to pay anything for a license. The West Side dogs are scrubby, they're mean and they're vicious. Those are the dogs that we should go after, Your Worship. And by all means, shoot them if you have to. I really don't.
That's the police chief's job.
Other than that, Your Worship, I will probably be supporting this motion if the West Side dogs only.
Alderman Clark.
Thank you, Your Worship. Alderman McLean is clearly demonstrating why we have a ward system here right now, and perhaps in the future we might not want to have one. I would also like to concur with Alderman White. The chief of police is to receive 20% of all collections for dogs and 50 cents for every one that he puts down and buries. Your Worship, as was mentioned by Alderman White, the Chief of Police is already receiving a princely sum of $100 a month. Is this not enough for policing in Port Moody?
It's a fine question, Alderman. It's Alderman Britton.
Your Worship, I'd just like to reflect on the impromptu comment by one of our distinguished citizens, Mr. Ross, and affirm that what he says is accurate. Everyone in town knows his dog Rascal, and I suspect he's correct that Rascal could probably not come up with the fine all at once, but he has seemed to be making deposits all over town.
Alderman Murray.
On the question of whether the dogs can pay the fine, I can only say that if there was a dog to pay a fine, it would be in the east side of Port Moody. And I think I would prefer that only the dogs on the east side be taxed in this bylaw. So I won't be supporting this bylaw the way it is either.
Alderman McNeese.
I just wanted to assert that perhaps Rascal is the cause of the overpopulation in this town, to concur with the alderman at the end of the table. Perhaps it is Rascal that jeopardizes the bitches and perhaps causes the city clerk to, give us this background. It comes down to this analogy. The honeybee's a busy soul. He has no time for birth control. That's why in times like these, there are so many sons of bees. I would propose that the tax is the same, whether the male dog or the bitch is paying it.
Are you suggesting that as an amendment, Alderman?
Yes, Your Worship, I am.
Is there a seconder for the, oh, it may have been. Is there a seconder for the amendment?
I'll second that motion.
Alderman Otley is once again seconding the motion. I think that Alderman McNeese, maybe we could just talk to the police chief and have him deal with Rascal. We could just pay the 50 cents up front and have this whole matter dealt with rather than continuing with the consuming time of council.
Excellent, yes.
So on the amendment, then I shall call that question if there's no further debate. All those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed?
Nay.
Hey.
Oh, overwhelmingly seems to be opposed, so thank you.
I would put forthwith first reading of the bylaws presented.
Second.
Very well, thank you. I'll call the question on first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
And all those opposed? Seeing none, thank you. And on second reading, we would move.
Seconded.
And we would move this issue on second reading to resolve into a committee of the whole on the dog bylaw for the next council meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
Nay.
Seeing none.
Your Worship,
Seeing one.
Your Worship,
Alderman Britton.
on a question of privilege that we have as a council, not necessarily myself as an alderman, we have in a neighboring port city the honor of sharing a 100th birthday. Now, I'm unclear because news travels fairly slow from Port Coquitlam to Moody, what particular date or how we can help honor that or celebrate. I don't know whether our clerk has any information at all, but I think we should extend a note of congratulations and feel confident that by trade and industry, they too will prosper.
I suspect that our clerk, as the clerk, probably has little knowledge of what goes on that far to the east of Port Moody, where he rarely ventures, as he has no method of transportation. And our clerk in particular, who has no interest in matters regional or outside of the boundaries of the city, but I'm sure we could possibly ask if he has heard through reference to the recent also incorporation of the city of Port Coquitlam. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Yes, I was at the Wild Duck Inn hunting just the other day. And I ran into Mayor Mars there, who also just incorporated Port Coquitlam on March 7th of this fine year, 1913. And they too look forward to a prosperous future, sharing in regional services as they come together to make it the best place in the world to live.
Here, here.
Here, here.
Out of order?
Thank you, Your Worship.
I thank you, Alderman, and I wanted to, that concludes our agenda for our council meeting today, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you so much for coming and having a few laughs with us. I want to thank all of those from our neighboring communities for sharing in our centennial as we're sharing with Port Coquitlam. It's indeed a neat thing that we're having them both at the same time. And I'm going to just give you a quick rundown of what's going on as we leave here today. I am Mike Clay speaking again. Out in our parking lot, we have a historical display from our good friends and longtime Port Moody business, Andre's Winery, or if you are too young to not know what Baby Duck is, you may think of Peller Estates. The Pacific Model A Antique Car Club, I hope, have been able to stay. Of course, rain isn't good for your antique cars, but you saw the cars that we were delivered in, and we thank them for coming. We have a Centennial Guest Book, which was here outside the door, and it will be later at the Art Gallery if you miss it here. We have the chair of our Youth Focus Committee has what's noted here is Speakeasy Videos. We're doing a chance for you to video record yourself wishing a happy birthday to Port Moody in the tent just over by the Art Center. And then, of course, the Art Center itself is having their centennial event today. So they've got civic artifacts and a historic tea going on. So again, I thank you, Mr. Moss, for stepping out of order. I thank all of you for coming. I love looking at the outfits that we're seeing. And our great council up here, we've had a great time with this. And we want to thank all of you and all of those that came before us, two of whom were nice enough to join with us today. So on behalf of all the staff and the council of Port Moody, thank you again and enjoy the rest of the day.